The NFL draft is quickly approaching, and through a 3-day span in late April, NFL teams can change the future of their franchise for better or worse. In today's video, we will be discussing 4 NFL teams that can't afford to miss during the 2024 draft, because if they do, then the repercussions for each franchise will be enormous. Not every pick has to be a home run, and in fact, it's pretty rare to walk out of a draft with more than 2 starters, which is why it was such a big deal last year when the Texans, Lions, and Rams all killed the 2023 draft. But that's not how every draft goes, not even close, and if the 4 teams we discuss in today's video have a bad draft, well, each front office and coaching staff will certainly feel their seat getting warmer and they could be out of a job. Obviously, no team wants to miss on a draft, so don't think there's 28 teams that can completely afford to whiff on the 2024 draft, because that's certainly not the case. Each situation in today's video is unique and there is a lot to break down, so without further ado, let's dive right in. We are starting today's video with the New York Giants. The Giants finished the 2023 season with a 6-11 record, and pretty much anything that could have went wrong for the Giants last year, well, went wrong. They started the year with a 40-0 loss to the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football, and that set the tone for them for the rest of the year. They finished 30th in points per game offensively, as they averaged just 15.6 per game all year, and had just 2 games where they scored 30 or more points, which were against the Cardinals and Commanders, both of which are selecting in the top 4. The Giants can't afford to miss in the 2024 draft for a few reasons, but the big one is head coach Brian Daboll and GM Joe Schoen are entering year 3, and you can certainly make a case their seat is getting warm. Not scorching hot, of course, but warm. And they enter the 2024 draft guaranteed to get either a top 3 quarterback in the class or a top 3 receiver, both of which the Giants desperately need. Now, in the best case scenario for them, LSU's Malik Nabers would fall to pick 6, and they would easily get the best receiver this franchise has had since Odell Beckham Jr. My case for drafting Nabers for the Giants is pretty simple. I think there are 5 blue chip talents in this class, with those 5 players being Caleb, Marv, Malik, Brock Bowers, and Joe Alt. And the Giants' skill position players on offense at the moment are bad. There's no, oh, well, they have whoever. No, this is one of the worst units in all of football. I actually did a mock simulation of what I think the Giants should do in the draft on the Football Analysis podcast, the link is in the bio, and they have to address receiver early, period. I don't think Daniel Jones is the guy long term, and if they draft Nabers this year, I think it's an easy pitch for Schoen and Daboll moving forward to basically say, look, DJ did not work out, but we have Malik, and if we are able to draft a quarterback next year, we will be fine long term. But the current group of skill players they have on offense, with Devin Singletary, Darius Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson, Jalen Hyatt, and maybe Darren Waller, because his future is unknown at this point, is, well, bad. I know some people have discussed the Giants trading up for a quarterback so they can get their guy of the future, but I would be surprised if the Giants did this, because I think the situation would be eerily similar to the Bears and what they did with Justin Fields just 3 years ago. Granted, I do think Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll are better than Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy, but the point stands. A bad supporting cast with a GM and head coach trying to force a quarterback to save their jobs. New York's future starts with winning the 24 draft. It starts with acquiring as much talent as you possibly can to improve your roster and a team that finished bottom 3 in points per game last year. Sure, you can say that Daniel Jones tearing his ACL in Week 9 hurt their season and limited what they could do for the remainder of the 23 season, but he threw 2 touchdowns on just 160 passing attempts last year and was 1-5 in games he started. The Giants can't afford to miss on the 24 draft, or else they will be rebuilding in 25 from the ground up. Now, I start every day by going to the gym, and one of my essentials at the gym is taking my Maryland water bottle. Obviously, we have the best flag in the entire country, but that's besides the point. But one thing that's also become part of my gym routine is using the Fitbod app. Fitbod is an app that's completely personalized and adapts as you improve, and one of my favorite things about the Fitbod app is how easy it is to use. You simply record the workouts that you're doing, along with the weight that you're doing, and simply track the progression over the course of a week, a month, or a couple 12-month period. It's like having your own personal trainer, but better. It's cheaper, you can work out anywhere you want with or without equipment, and you can build a program completely customized for you. Just this morning, I used Fitbod for a good back and bi workout, hit pull-ups, hit some cable curls, some drag curls, and overall it was a really good workout. And you can get 25% off your subscription at fitbod.me/analysis. That's fitbod.me/analysis. I cannot recommend the Fitbod app enough, and a big thank you to Fitbod for sponsoring today's video. Next up is the Denver Broncos, who currently have the 12th overall pick. Despite a disastrous start to the 23 season in which they started the year 1-5, they won 7 of their final 11 games and finished the year 8-9. They lost center Lloyd Cushenberry in free agency, and by cutting former quarterback Russell Wilson, they have a huge cap hit from the Russ signing this year, which really limited what they were able to do in free agency. They also have a little over $14 million in dead money that they are paying former Broncos in guys like Randy Gregory, Justin Simmons, and Brandon McManus, to name a few. This is per Spottrack.com, of course. Denver has not had a winning season since they won the Super Bowl back in 2015, and it's been downhill since. I know they've had their fair share of bad moments over the past few years especially, but where they are now, to me at least, is a scary situation. Their roster is not good, and their top 3 receivers are Courtland Sutton, who did not report to voluntary workouts as he seeks a new contract, Marvin Mims, an exciting prospect who was a late second-round pick last year, and Josh Reynolds, who came over in free agency after having 600 yards with the Lions. Their top 2 quarterbacks on the roster currently are Jarrett Stidham and Ben DiNucci, and I don't think there's any possibility the Broncos roll into the 24 season with either of those guys starting under center, nor should they. So whoever the Broncos draft at quarterback, whether that's JJ McCarthy, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, or whoever, has to be the guy, because it's probably going to be a long rookie year, no matter who the guy for Denver is. And if Denver misses on their quarterback this year, the guy Sean Payton basically gutted a lot of the roster for, well, it will be one of the ugliest situations a new GM and head coach could possibly enter. They would be in a division with Patrick Mahomes and Jim Harbaugh and have a roster that's not great and have to rebuild almost entirely from scratch. I think out of any of the teams in today's video, Denver is the one that absolutely can't afford to miss on the quarterback they take most. What also needs to be remembered is Denver does not have their second-round pick due to, you guessed it, the Sean Payton trade. They only have 2 picks in the top 100, which are pick 12, of course, and pick 76, which is their 3rd-round pick. They don't pick again until 121, which is a 4th-round pick from the Dolphins, and then they have 5 other day 3 picks after that. No matter what they do after pick 12 isn't irrelevant, obviously, but I think you can make an argument that this year's 1st-round pick is the most important pick they've made in the past 5 to 10 years, and by far because of everything it represents. The Broncos went all in with Russell Wilson during the 22 offseason, and we all know how it went from start to finish, but now we're past that and we're trying to secure the next Broncos quarterback, again. But this time they let Sean Payton cook and do things how he wanted, and it resulted in Russell Wilson getting released and the team eating a huge part of the contract they owe him. And now it's on Sean, the front office, and the rest of the coaches to make sure they get the next quarterback right. Now, from the Rocky Mountains to the upper Midwest, we go to Minnesota to discuss the Vikings. This is more than just, oh well, Kirk Cousins is a Falcon and they need to hit on a quarterback and move on to the next player. If the Vikings miss in the 24 draft, it is going to be detrimental to their long-term success because this division got pretty good pretty fast. I was a big fan of how Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes were building the Lions and have done several videos on them over the past year and a half, and they just went to the NFC Championship game. I thought the Packers would have an adjustment period in the post-Aaron Rodgers era, and I thought they would miss the playoffs and go 7-10 or 8-9 in the first year with Jordan Love as their quarterback, and maybe even start out 4-8 and win 4 of their final 5 games, and have some positive momentum to build on as they enter 2024. And technically they did have an adjustment period, it just lasted a couple of weeks, not a full season. So Minnesota is in a division with 2 teams that could easily go to the Super Bowl this year, and they're in a division with a team that has the number 1 pick and will draft a very good quarterback prospect in Caleb Williams, and as you can see, Minnesota can get left out and fall behind fast. Some would say they're already well behind everyone else. But if they get a quarterback of the future along with the supporting cast they have on offense with guys like Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, Aaron Jones, and of course, both tackles in Christian Darrisaw and Brian O'Neill, well, they can be competing with these teams and be right in the thick of it. But not only is it important for the Vikings to have a good draft this year for the sake of their team in the long run, if they draft the wrong quarterback, I don't see a scenario where Justin Jefferson commits long-term and signs an extension to stay in Minnesota, and, well, why would he? You only have one shot at an NFL career, and you don't want to spend your age 26, 27, and 28 seasons catching passes from guys like Sam Darnold, or whoever they would choose to go after if Sam Darnold only plays 1 year in Minnesota. Jefferson would have no reason to stay. So there's the whole long-term aspect for the Vikings where if they don't draft the right quarterback this year, there's a very real possibility they spend the next several years with their tails between their legs and looking up at multiple big brothers in the division. Now, this concept applies to Kevin O'Connell as well as Brian Daboll, but I think both coaches are good, and for each of their futures, I hope they each knock the 24 draft out of the park. Both of these guys are very good offensive minds, and Daboll unfortunately does not have a great roster, and O'Connell is in a tricky situation with how good the division is, and the reality that the team may not be able to go up and get the quarterback of their choosing due to each of the top 3 teams selecting their presumable quarterback of the future. If KOC and GM Kwesi Adofo-Mensah miss in this draft, then I think there is a very real possibility each are shown the door either after year 3 or year 4. Kwesi had a horrific first draft class as a GM, and the pressure is on. It should also be noted the Vikings do not have a second or third round pick due to trading up with the Texans for their other first round pick and the TJ Hawkinson trade with the Lions. Hitting on the quarterback position for Minnesota is a job-defining move for both the GM and head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. Out to LA to discuss the Chargers, and this may be a surprising one, but I think the Chargers have to nail this draft because this is the start of a new era for them. But it's more than just the start of a new era for them. During the first 4 years of star quarterback Justin Herbert's career, the Chargers did not win anywhere close to as much as they wanted to. Not during a time period where they had a great quarterback on a discount, and during the first 4 years of his career, they went just 31-36 in the regular season, and of course, 0-1 in the postseason with the loss to the Jags. They had some decisions to make this offseason, and the decisions boiled down to whether or not they would keep pass rushers Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa, or receivers Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, or one of each. Ultimately, they went with keeping the pass rushers, and we are less than a week from the draft, and the guys Justin Herbert currently has to throw to are Josh Palmer, Quentin Johnston, Darius Davis, Will Dissly, and Hayden Hurst. I know the long-term plan for the Chargers is to become a ground and pound team, but I don't think the Chargers will be selecting in the top 5 of any draft for quite a while. If they could walk out with either Marv or Malik Neighbors, then I personally think they have to take one of them. I think the best case for the Chargers would be to have a quarterback fall and have the Vikings trade up, so LA can presumably get picks 11 and 23 and rebuild their roster as much as they can. If they can't acquire both first-round picks from the Vikings, then take the best receiver available because of how depleted this receiving core is. Now, I don't think the Chargers would trade back with the Broncos at 12 or the Raiders at 13 because that would be a quarterback in their division that they would have to play twice a year for the next several years, so that's why we said the Vikings rather than either of the AFC West teams. I do think Quentin Johnston has potential, of course, but I wouldn't rely on him solely moving forward. They need as much talent as they can get in rookie contracts at premium positions, and getting a receiver at pick 5 would be a start. I also think this is a can't-miss draft for the Panthers, and I don't think they're in as bad of a situation as it's made out to be. They have 2 top 40 selections, and this is an extremely talented receiving class, and I like what they did in free agency by addressing the offensive line in a big way. I am eager to see how they attack the 24 draft, and I don't think Bryce Young is doomed by any means moving forward. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please like and subscribe as each help the channel in a big way, and make sure to check out the Fitbot app. Until next time, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.